Hey Ram Nation, Ryan Keating here, Sports Information Director for Texas Wesleyan University. By my side, my assistant Cameron Irvine, and we have the privilege to talk to Angel Martinez, head coach of men's and women's tennis here at Texas Wesleyan University. Angel Martinez, in his fifth season so far at Texas Wesleyan, he was hired in 2014 to restart the women's tennis program, and then 2 years later, the men's program was brought back as well. We hadn't had tennis since around 2002, and Angel basically was the guy pinned to rebuild the program. He has amassed over 80 wins between the two teams, the men's and women's teams, since then. And he was a long time coach at Grapevine High School, and he basically started that one from scratch. Has 31 years of coaching experience before he came to Texas Wesleyan, and now a Texas Tennis Coaches Association Hall of Famer. Angel, how's it going?
Doing great. Just being bored during this coronavirus deal, but it could be worse.
So I hear you got a ring for being inducted to the Texas Tennis Coaches Hall of Fame. Let's see it.
Oh, all right. Well, I have them here kind of together. I don't know if you can see them right there. The bottom one's the championship ring, and the top one is the Hall of Fame induction ring. I never get to wear them, but, but it's kind of awkward going out in public with rings that size. And then, what are those for? And that's not my style, so I just keep them right there in the office.
Well, it's good to have them, and it's good to have you here at Texas Wesleyan. I mean, we got a Hall of Famer in Bobby Cornett, legendary golf coach, who stepped down to let Sean Hensley take the reins over the golf program, and Yasna Rather, table tennis Hall of Famer, and now Angel Martinez, Texas Tennis Coaches Hall of Famer. So let's get into this a little bit. Angel, what do you think is your opinion on what athletics and maybe what tennis specifically will look like when we try to resume our normal sports lives?
Well, the operative word is normal, and my wife and I and my daughter, we've had this discussion as well, and along with some of my colleagues and peers that are in the industry, we've been talking online, and we don't think that after this scenario that we're going to be back to normal for quite some time. I think, what it's going to look like, I personally don't know, but I don't think it's going to look like what it did before, if that makes any sense. I think that we'll behave differently. Will we react differently? Those days of, you getting a big win and me and you getting together and, having a hug or something like that after the match, and maybe it's just a poundage or something like that. I think some of those things are going to change, and hands-on coaching where you're really on top of somebody and you're coaching, which is very much the norm in tennis. I think a lot of that is going to change. There's some other aspects that will change about it too, but what that is, I don't know, but I don't think that we're going to be back to the normal that we were before for quite some time.
Sure. Yeah, I've read a couple things on the handshake, like maybe the handshake goes away and stuff like that. So it's this virus has definitely changed the landscape of what might happen in the future and how we'll get back to living normal lives. Okay, so let's talk about tennis. Your program for a little bit. What type of culture do you try to build in the tennis program?
Well, I try to be a facilitator. I try to create a family culture. I try to create a culture of inclusiveness. I want from the very first day, the first second that I recruit a player and their family, it's always the number one thing that it's always based on is honesty. And I always tell them, I said, I may not tell you what you want to hear, but it's going to be the truth. And sometimes you're not going to like the truth. And, you know, it, it just makes life so much simpler. I've seen other programs, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. You know, we all have to operate how we feel comfortable, but they kind of slide or, you know, hide the truth or, you know, and it's not really, things aren't really what they seem to be. And when they get here, the recruit is very disappointed. And I'm not trying to be out of place. I get a lot of those kids because they're unhappy because what they were told before wasn't really what the actual truth was, and then we get them, and everything that I've always told them is true. You know, I don't skim on anything, and I think that makes life a lot easier. You know, whether it's a financial situation, or you know what we offer, or what our facilities are like, or what I am like as a coach, what our program is like. It's always based on the truth and being honest. And I think that's one of the things that's paramount about our program. That leads to a lot of loyalty between the player and myself. And once you get that foundation, you can go almost anywhere. But without that, you can't build anything at all.
Yeah, I think transparency, especially in the sports, the more individualized sports, I think is super important.
Absolutely.
Talk about the process of getting maybe a high school senior student athlete. Talk about the process of getting them ready to compete in both the classroom and the sports arena, from like first contact to full status.
Well, one of the first things that we do is, unlike a lot of other programs, well, not programs, but other tennis teams, is I, or let me rephrase that, we always allow our team, our students, when they come back the first week of school, to get acclimated. We think it's more important to get to know their professors, get comfortable with surroundings on campus, kind of develop a routine the first week, rather than throwing another wrench in everything. You know, because sometimes when you throw tennis in there, then you know it kind of throws them off a little bit. So let them get on the campus, let them get acclimated to the campus. Get a routine and get to know their professors, and just have the knowledge of knowing where the classes are, knowing where to go. Get all that down, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start the tennis part of it, the tennis component. And that's really, really, from the feedback that we get as a coaching staff, the kids really appreciate it. The only problem we run into is, you know, after that first week, you know, the last cup, the last day, hey, coach, can we get out there and hit? And of course, they can do it, but we let them do it on their own, and then we go ahead and throw the coaching aspect into it the first week, and we get them going. And it's proven to be a really good model for us.
Coach, there's a lot of tennis players out there. I mean, there's so many high schools, there's so many junior colleges, and I mean, I've always been fascinated by how coaches hone in on the recruitment process, and you know, what is your kind of philosophy on what you're looking for in your program in terms of, you know, what makes a winner? You know, how big of a sportsman are they? I see your sportsmanship sign behind you there.
Well,
just as a recruiter.
Well, golly, there's so many pieces to that question. Okay, the first part is because, and of course, you've always got to throw this piece in there, because of the financial, you know, parameters that we put into. The very first thing we look at is we look at their grades. We've got to find that student with a very solid SAT score or good transfer GPA, a good high school GPA that plays tennis. That's our first little hurdle that we want them to jump over, because we want those type of kids, because you know, financially and you know, from a scholarship standpoint, it makes it less of a burden for us. That's number one. Number two, we always preach this. We're always looking for the player that puts others before self. That is massive in our program. You cannot build a team where, you know, even if we're an individual sport, they put themselves before others. We want that unselfish player. Absolutely, absolutely paramount for us. We find that those type of kids, our practices run smoother, our travel runs smoother, they're more flexible. I mean, it's just a better world. And that then transcends into our culture that we want to create, which is a family culture, a team where all our players bond together, for lack of better words. They have each other's backs, they watch over each other, they are more, you know, they tend to create those peer learning groups that we, promote so much in high school. That kind of transpires at our level. We want them to go ahead and create those groups, and those also move forward into our play. We find that they support each other, and it's just a better culture for us. And that's the whole culture that we have here, is just of togetherness. We find, and I have found even in high school, that teams that are bonded well, that mesh well, that care about each other, all things being equal, or even if the other team's a little bit better, that single part, that single piece will take you over the top. And in the last, especially in the last 16, 17 years, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Tennis as a whole, just to kind of blow outside the Texas Wesleyan tennis bubble with COVID-19, do you think the sport as a whole has an advantage over other sports? You've got two players or two on either side of the net, right? There's a little bit of social distancing built into the sport anyway. Do you think that will allow for the process to maybe be expedited for tennis so that we can get back out there watching some great matches?
Well, absolutely. And it's funny because, I was thinking us and golf, and I started thinking about cross country, but then you get those big old packs that you run into. So that may not be, one, but us and golf, absolutely. I think that would help. The other two pieces of that puzzle are, because the NCAA, the NEI always follows what the NCAA does. They kind of look and see what they're going to do before we do anything. That, and plus the other part is the USTA, the United States Tennis Association. Right now, I can tell you, I'm a teaching pro at Arlington Tennis Center, and they're closed down, they're shut down. And furthermore, all the nets at the parks and at the high schools are gone. So, I mean, once those things go back up, and once the NCAA lightens up a little bit, I think we'll move forward. Do I think that we're going to move forward? Yeah, I honestly believe that we will.
How describe a moment that, you played for a number of years, and there had to have been a moment at some point as you transitioned into being a coach where you said, "Oh my gosh, I really love coaching. Like, I miss playing, but man, this is really awesome." Is there a moment that sticks out to you with either from Grapevine or Texas Wesleyan where you said, "Wow, I this is awesome"?
Well, in high school, everybody thinks, "Wow, it was a state championship," but that's not what it was. Early in my coaching career, and it doesn't matter what profession we're in, whether you're a salesman or, you work in the banking industry, there's always somebody that's just, they want to get ahead, no matter what, whether it's unethical or ethical. Well, when I was early in my coaching career, we had a coach like that in our conference. And I was a young coach, and the first year that I was there, it got the best of me. And I kind of looked up in the sky and I said, "God, if there is any justice in this world, this will come back to biting." Well, sure enough, the very next year, we're playing in the final. We're playing in the regional final to go to state. And it's only my second year coaching. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, "Oh, here we go." And sure enough, the lineup was completely stacked. We had the better team, well, not by much. It was close. So if you make a move in your lineup here and there, it can make a difference. And I just sat there and I said, the kids looked at me and said, "Coach, he's stacking, he's stacking, he's stacking." I said, "Yeah, I know that." I said, "But," he said, "Why don't you stack back?" So somebody cheats, I'm supposed to cheat back. And they kind of got real quiet. And I said, "Let's go out there and let's do it the right way." And sure enough, we beat them the right way. And it was probably one of the most satisfying wins that I had. And at that moment, it wasn't so much that we won, but I was able to teach my lessons that, the guys in the white hat can win, and by doing things right and winning, because it gives you even better taste in your mouth.
Right.
Wow, what a great story. And to go back to your point on academics, what you look for in a recruit. So last year, the men's and women's tennis team were named all NAIA scholar teams. The men's tennis team combined to average a 3.42 GPA, while the women's team managed a 3.14 GPA. So just going back to academics and how important that is, especially in the game of tennis.
It would have been even higher this year.
Well, and those numbers haven't come out yet, but I'm sure we'll
oh yeah, they're going to be
on there. Sure, yeah. Coach, what frustrates you most as a coach? What's your pet peeve?
Not being coachable. That is absolutely you can ask any coach that's the number one pet peeve. At a changeover, if I come up to a player, they know, do not tell me, I know. Because if you know, then heck, you wouldn't be doing it. So, I only have 90 seconds. Let me talk to you. Let me give you some points. And you can take, yeah, this is good. I'm going to go with that. That not so much. Because usually in a changeover, I'll throw in 3, 4, maybe 5 things that I think that could help you. And as a player, and I tell them this openly, just take what I give you, and whatever you think you can really make work, use it. But don't sit there and let's have a debate, because there's no time for a debate. I always tell them, you're being uncoachable at that time. You play, I don't interrupt your play. When I coach, don't interrupt my coaching. So, it's usually the first year players that I get that fall into that I'm having to mold and, move forward from that point, because a lot of them, even in high school, they get to that point where they feel it's okay to debate with the coach. Well, they get into college and I'm like, no, my rule is law. So you don't talk, I talk. If I ask you a question, let's get feedback. But that, it sounds so harsh, but that's the best way to be the most efficient during that 90 seconds.
Okay, talk about some of the strongest traits of your assistant coaches, Steve Foster and Ashton Willis. Is Ashton still with us? I know she was
Ashton graduated and has moved on.
Okay. Talk a little bit about Steve's personality and what he brings to the table and some of his strongest traits.
Well, Steve is very old school, and Steve has forgotten more tennis than I know. To be honest with you, he is absolutely a wellspring of information. And aside from being, my assistant coach, he's probably one of my best friends on this planet. He's like another brother. So it's a great relationship that we have. He's also more a student of the game than I could ever hope to be. We'll walk down to practice, and I'm telling you, out of 5 days of practice, at least 3 or 4, Steve is talking to me about a video that he saw online, or a drill that he read, or a drill that he saw. And I'm not that guy. I mean, Steve is constantly researching ways to make himself as a better coach. And don't get me wrong, I do the same. I look and try to find things, but not to the degree that Steve does. I mean, he makes us better because he makes himself better every day. And I mean, what better, dynamic can you ask for? And as far as practices are concerned, I mean, he has this. Even when I coached against him in high school, I nominated him for State Coach of the Year, which he won that year. And, when I presented him in my speech about Steve, was one of the things is that I absolutely hated playing his teams, because I knew that when we played them, that even if they were, just below our level, that we had a dogfight ahead of us because of him, because of he has the ability to make a diamond out of a lump of coal. He's absolutely incredible. And those that are better, he can make even better. And that is one of the biggest reasons why our men's team is just exploding. He is the reason.
I imagine that's a huge asset to have.
Absolutely.
All right, a little bit more fun question here. If you could switch jobs with any coach for 1 week,
Golf coach.
Okay.
That was easy.
No-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. Who wouldn't want to be the golf coach? I would.
All right. Talk about a little bit of why you would want to coach golf.
Well, of course, number one is because it's an individual sport, and I like coaching individual sports. And the other thing, of course, you're on the golf course, man. You're in the most beautiful piece of real estate every day that God has ever created, or that it's not God created, but God gave us the tools to create it. How's that? But yeah, you're out there on the golf course every day. I mean, and what better world could I be in than to be able to coach my hobby? I love to be on the golf course when I'm not on the tennis court. So I couldn't imagine a better place to be.
Yeah, even the courses with the cheaper green fees.
Yeah,
you don't go out there and say, well, this is the ugliest place I've ever seen.
No.
It's pretty nice.
Cow pastures look good.
Coach, what was your favorite subject in school?
Biology. I was always a science guy. I have a minor in biology. I actually, at the end of my college career, thought very seriously into going into sports medicine rather than coaching. But I was offered a job and I couldn't turn it down. And I looked at it. I was poor. I was going to have to really, probably go to school 3-4 more years to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be even, to even get a job in that field. And I thought, well, I went to school to be a coach. Let's go ahead and keep going that way.
Hopefully, we never have to do this whole quarantine thing again. If it had turned out differently, and you could only have 3 people in your house in your little quarantine, but they were all Texas Wesleyan staff members, who would be in your quarantine house? You get 3.
Number one, Steve Tratcher. Steve Tratcher. I love talking to Steve, and Steve Tratcher, like Steve Foster. I mean, I could ask him any question, and he had an answer, and it'd be an intelligent answer. I mean, he's always been like a mentor to me. So, Steve Tratcher, and wow. Let's see. After that, man. I guess Teresa Ramos, because I love talking to Teresa. And this is no knocking at Steve Foster, but I'm looking outside of tennis, of course. So Teresa's also just the most pleasant person. She's incredible. She's easy to talk to, and I bet nobody can make food and cook like Teresa. So if I had to have somebody in my house, we got to have somebody to feed me and Steve. So I'm going to count on Teresa to do that.
Teresa Ramos, our athletic administrative assistant, she keeps everything organized and
Absolutely.
Has all the answers. So
that's right.
Big shout out to her.
Yeah, so that's probably be the most intelligent move I could make.
You got one more, Coach?
Let's see, one more to put in there. Probably good old Robert Garza. Bobby's a good friend, and he's just easy to talk to. He's easy to have a conversation with, and he's got the biggest heart of anybody I know. He truly cares about people and about his family, and he's just somebody that I would like to be around all the time.
Outside of tennis and working, what's your favorite thing to do? Quarantine or no quarantine? What are you running to if you're not on the court?
Playing golf. I love to play golf. I am absolutely horrible at it, but I love to play golf. I love to play golf. And, of course, don't get me wrong, I love spending time with my family, but I mean, I'm pretty much sure that with everybody on the planet, that should be a given. So I'm going outside of that. So yeah, I love to play golf. When I married my wife back in 1987, her dad was just just an avid golfer, and he really helped me love the game and really enjoy the game, and showed me the inner workings of the game that I cannot do, but he really helped me grow an appreciation for golf. Yeah, he's snoring over there. That's my dog. So if you hear it, that's him snoring over there.
What kind of dog is it?
He is part beagle, part pit, and part basset hound.
Oh.
He weighs about 85 pounds. And he is the love of my life. Next to my wife, and my daughter, he is the love of my life. And they'll tell you that too.
Yeah, we love our furry friends. Hey, Coach, thanks so much for stopping by and talking with us today. We really appreciate it.
You bet. Anytime. I really enjoy both of you guys. And yeah, both of you guys could be in my house too. So I have a fourth and a fifth. You'd be in my house too, man. I love you guys.
All right, Ram Nation. That was head tennis coach Angel Martinez with us. We will look for another edition of ramsports.net Ram Talk here shortly. All right. Thanks for stopping by. For Cameron Irvine, it's Ryan Keating. We'll see you later.